Part II of A Grammar of the English Tongue, by Samuel Johnson. Read for the LibriVox Language Learning Collection, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Part II of A Grammar of the English Tongue, by Samuel Johnson. Of nouns substantive. The relations of English nouns to words going before or following are not expressed by cases, or changes of termination, but, as in most of the other European languages, by prepositions, unless we may be said to have a genitive case. Singular. Nominative: magister, a master, the master. Genitive: magistri, of a master, of the master, or masters, the masters. Dative: magistro, to a master, to the master. Accusative: magistrum, a master, the master. Vocative: magister, master, o master. Ablative: magistro, from a master, from the master. Plural. Nominative: magistri, masters, the masters. Genitive: magistrorum, of masters, of the masters. Dative: magistris, to masters, to the masters. Accusative: magistros, masters, the masters. Vocative: magistri, masters, o masters. Ablative: magistris, from masters, from the masters. Our nouns are therefore only declined thus: master, genitive, masters, plural, masters. Scholar, genitive, scholars, plural, scholars. These genitives are always written with a mark of elision, master''s, scholar''s, according to an opinion long received that the apostrophe s is a contraction of his, as the soldier's valor, for the soldier his valor. But this cannot be the true original, because ''s is put to female nouns: woman's beauty, the virgin's delicacy, haughty Juno's unrelenting hate; and collective nouns, as women's passions, the rabble's insolence, the multitude's folly. In all these cases it is apparent that his cannot be understood. We say likewise the foundation's strength, the diamond's luster, the winter's severity. But in these cases his may be understood, he and his having formerly been applied to neuters in the place now supplied by it and its. The learned and sagacious Wallace, to whom every English grammarian owes a tribute of reverence, calls this modification of the noun an adjective possessive. I think with no more propriety than he might have applied the same to the genitive in equitum desus, trohe oris, or any other Latin genitive. Dr. Lowth, on the other part, supposes the possessive pronouns mine and thine to be genitive cases. This termination of the noun seems to constitute a real genitive indicating possession. It is derived to us from the Saxons, who declined smith, a smith, genitive smither, of a smith, plural smither or smithar, smiths, and so in 2 other of their 7 declensions. It is a further confirmation of this opinion that in the old poets both the genitive and plural were longer by a syllable than the original word, knitis for knights in Chaucer, leavis for leaves in Spenser. When a word ends in s, the genitive may be the same with the nominative, as Venus' temple. The plural is formed by adding s, as table, tables, fly, flies, sister, sisters, wood, woods, or es where s could not otherwise be sounded, as after ch, s, sh, x, z. After c sounded like s and g like j. The mute e is vocal before s, as lance, lances, outrage, outrages. The formation of the plural and genitive singular is the same. A few words still make the plural in n, as men, women, oxen, swine, and more anciently ion, shun. This formation is that which generally prevails in the Teutonic dialects. Words that end in f commonly form their plural by ves, as loaf, loaves, calf, calves. Except a few: muff, muffs, chief, chiefs, sow, hoof, roof, proof, relief, mischief, puff, cuff, dwarf, handkerchief, grief. Irregular plurals are teeth from tooth, lice from louse, mice from mouse, geese from goose, feet from foot, dice from die, pence from penny, brethren from brother, children from child. Plurals ending in s have no genitives, but we say women's excellencies, and weigh the men's wits against the ladies' hairs. Dr. Willis thinks the Lord's house may be said for the House of Lords, but such phrases are not now in use, and surely an English ear rebels against them. They would commonly produce a troublesome ambiguity, as the Lord's house may be the House of Lords or the house of a lord. Besides that, the mark of elision is improper, for in the Lord's house nothing is cut off. Some English substantives, like those of many other languages, change their termination as they express different sexes, as prince, princess, actor, actress, lion, lioness, hero, heroine. To these mentioned by Dr. Lowth may be added arbitress, poetess, chantress, duchess, tigress, governess, tutress, peeress, authoress, traitress, and perhaps others. Of these variable terminations we have only a sufficient number to make us feel our want. For when we say of a woman that she is a philosopher, an astronomer, a builder, a weaver, a dancer, we perceive an impropriety in the termination which we cannot avoid. But we can say that she is an architect, a botanist, a student, because these terminations have not annexed to them the notion of sex. In words which the necessities of life are often requiring, the sex is distinguished not by different terminations, but by different names, as a bull, a cow, a horse, a mare, equus, equa, a cock, a hen, and sometimes by pronouns prefixed, as a he-goat, a she-goat. Of adjectives. Adjectives in the English language are wholly indeclinable, having neither case, gender, nor number, and being added to substantives in all relations without any change, as a good woman, good women, of a good woman, a good man, good men, of good men. The comparison of adjectives. The comparative degree of adjectives is formed by adding er, the superlative by adding est to the positive, as fair, fairer, fairest, lovely, lovelier, loveliest, sweet, sweeter, sweetest, low, lower, lowest, high, higher, highest. Some words are irregularly compared, as good, better, best, bad, worse, worst, little, less, least, near, nearer, next, much, more, most, many for moe, more for moer, most for most, late, later, latest, or last. Some comparatives form a superlative by adding most, as nether, nethermost, outer, outermost, under, undermost, up, upper, uppermost, for, former, foremost. Most is sometimes added to a substantive, as topmost, southmost. Many adjectives do not admit of comparison by terminations, and are only compared by more and most, as benevolent, more benevolent, most benevolent. All adjectives may be compared by more and most, even when they have comparatives and superlatives regularly formed, as fair, fairer, or more fair, fairest or most fair. In adjectives that admit a regular comparison, the comparative more is oftener used than the superlative most, as more fair is oftener written for fairer than most fair for fairest. The comparison of adjectives is very uncertain, and being much regulated by commodiousness of utterance, or agreeableness of sound, is not easily reduced to rules. Monosyllables are commonly compared. Polysyllables, or words of more than 2 syllables, are seldom compared otherwise than by more and most, as deplorable, more deplorable, most deplorable. Dissyllables are seldom compared if they terminate in some, as fulsome, toilsome; in ful, as careful, spleenful, dreadful; in ing, as trifling, charming; in ous, as porous; in less, as careless, harmless; in ed, as wretched; in id, as candid; in al, as mortal; in ent, as recent, fervent; in ain, as certain; in ive, as missive; in dy, as woody; in fy, as puffy; in ky, as rocky, except lucky; in my, as roomy; in ny, as skinny; in py, as ropy, except happy; in ry, as hoary. Some comparatives and superlatives are yet found in good writers formed without regard to the foregoing rules; but in a language subjected so little and so lately to grammar, such anomalies must frequently occur. So shady is compared by Milton. She in shadiest covert hid, tuned her nocturnal note. Paradise Lost. And virtuous. What she wills to say or do seems wisest, virtuousest, discreetest, best. Paradise Lost. So trifling by Ray, who is indeed of no great authority. It is not so decorous, in respect of God, that he should immediately do all the meanest and triflingest things himself, without making use of any inferior or subordinate minister. Ray on the Creation. Famous by Milton. I shall be named among the famousest of women, sung at solemn festivals. Milton's Agonistes. Inventive by Ascham. Those have the inventivest heads for all purposes, and roundest tongues in all matters. Ascham's Schoolmaster. Mortal by Bacon. The mortalest poisons practised by the West Indians have some mixture of the blood, fat, or flesh of man. Bacon. Natural by Wotton. I will now deliver a few of the properest and naturalest considerations that belong to this piece. Wotton's Architecture. Wretched by Johnson. The wretcheder are the contemners of all helps, such as, presuming on their own naturals, deride diligence, and mock at terms when they understand not things. Ben Jonson. Powerful by Milton. We have sustained one day in doubtful fight. What heaven's great King hath powerfulest to send against us from about his throne? Paradise Lost. The termination in ish may be accounted in some sort a degree of comparison, by which the signification is diminished below the positive, as black, blackish, or tending to blackness; salt, saltish, or having a little taste of salt. They therefore admit no comparison. This termination is seldom added but to words expressing sensible qualities. nor often to words of above one syllable, and is scarcely used in the solemn or sublime style. Of pronouns. Pronouns, in the English language, are I, thou, he, with their plurals we, ye, they, it, who, which, what, whether, whosoever, whatsoever, my, mine, our, ours, thy, thine, your, yours, his, her, hers, theirs, this, that, other, another, the same, some. The pronouns personal are irregularly inflected. Singular nominative, I. Plural nominative, we. Accusative and me, us, other oblique cases. Nominative, thou, ye. Oblique, thee, you. You is commonly used in modern writers for ye, particularly in the language of ceremony, where the second person plural is used for the second person singular. You are my friend. Singular nominative, he. Plural nominative, they, applied to masculines. Oblique, him, them. Nominative, she, they, applied to feminines. Oblique, her, them. Nominative, it, they, applied to neuters or things. Oblique, its, them. For it, the practice of ancient writers was to use he, and for its, his. The possessive pronouns, like other adjectives, are without cases or change of termination. The possessive of the first person is my, mine, our, ours. Of the second, thy, thine, your, yours. Of the third, from he, his. From she, her, and hers. And in the plural, their, theirs, for both sexes. Ours, yours, hers, theirs are used when the substantive preceding is separated by a verb, as these are our books, these books are ours. Your children excel ours in stature, but ours surpass yours in learning. Ours, yours, hers, theirs, notwithstanding their seeming plural termination, are applied equally to singular and plural substantives, as this book is ours, these books are ours. Mine and thine were formerly used before a vowel, as mine amiable lady, which, though now disused in prose, might be still properly continued in poetry. They are used as ours and yours when they are referred to a substantive preceding, as thy house is larger than mine, but my garden is more spacious than thine. Their and theirs are the possessives likewise of they, when they is the plural of it, and are therefore applied to things. Pronouns relative are who, which, what, whether, whosoever, whatsoever. Nominative, who. Genitive, whose. Other oblique cases, whom. Nominative, which. Genitive, of which, or whose. Other oblique cases, which. Who is now used in relation to persons, and which in relation to things, but they were anciently confounded. At least it was common to say, the man which, though I remember no example of the thing who. Whose is rather the poetical than regular genitive of which. The fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world. Milton. Whether is only used in the nominative and accusative cases, and has no plural, being applied only to one of a number, commonly to one of two, as whether of these is left I know not. Whether shall I choose? It is now almost obsolete. What, whether relative or interrogative, is without variation. Whosoever, whatsoever, being compounded of who or what and soever, follow the rule of their primitives. Singular: this. Plural: these. In all cases, that, those. Other, others. Whether. The plural others is not used but when it is referred to a substantive preceding, as I have sent other horses. I have not sent the same horses, but others. Another, being only an other, has no plural. Here, there, and where, joined with certain particles, have a relative and pronominal use. Hereof, herein, hereby, hereafter, herewith, thereof, therein, thereby, thereupon, therewith, whereof, wherein, whereby, whereupon, wherewith, which signify of this, in this, etc., of that, in that, etc., of which, in which, etc. Therefore and wherefore, which are properly therefor and wherefor, for that, for which, are now reckoned conjunctions, and continued in use. The rest seem to be passing by degrees into neglect, though proper, useful, and analogous. They are referred both to singular and plural antecedents. There are two more words used only in conjunction with pronouns: own and self. Own is added to possessives, both singular and plural, as my own hand, our own house. It is emphatical, and implies a silent contrariety or opposition, as, I live in my own house, that is, not in a hired house. This I did with my own hand, that is, without help or not by proxy. Self is added to possessives, as myself, yourselves, and sometimes to personal pronouns, as himself, itself, themselves. It then, like own, expresses emphasis and opposition, as I did this myself, that is, not another. Or it forms a reciprocal pronoun, as we hurt ourselves by vain rage. Himself, itself, themselves, are supposed by Wallace to be put by corruption, for his self, itself, their selves, so that self is always a substantive. This seems justly observed, for we say, he came himself. Himself shall do this, where himself cannot be an accusative. Of the verb. English verbs are active, as I love, or neuter, as I languish. The neuters are formed like the actives. Most verbs signifying action may likewise signify condition or habit, and become neuters, as I love, I am in love, I strike, I am now striking. Verbs have only two tenses inflected in their terminations, the present and simple preterite. The other tenses are compounded of the auxiliary verbs have, shall, will, let, may, can, and the infinitive of the active or neuter verb. The passive voice is formed by joining the participle preterite to the substantive verb, as I am loved. To have, indicative mood, present tense, singular, I have, thou hast, he hath, or has, plural, we have, ye have, they have. Has is a termination connoted from hath, but now more frequently used both in verse and prose. Simple preterite, singular, I had, thou hadst, he had, plural, we had, ye had, they had. Compound preterite, singular, I have had, thou hast had, he has or hath had,
Plural. We have had, ye have had, they have had. Preterpluperfect. Singular. I had had, thou hadst had, he had had. Plural. We had had, ye had had, they had had.
Future. Singular. I shall have, thou shalt have, he shall have. Plural. We shall have, ye shall have, they shall have. Second future. Singular. I will have, thou wilt have, he will have. Plural. We will have, ye wilt have, they will have. By reading these future tenses may be observed the variations of shall and will. Imperative mood. Singular. Have, or have thou, let him have. Plural. Let us have, or have ye, let them have. Conjunctive mood. Present. Singular. I have, thou have, he have. Plural. We have, ye have, they have. Preterite simple as in the indicative. Preterite compound. Singular. I have had, thou have had, he have had. Plural. We have had, ye have had, they have had. Future. Singular. I shall have as in the indicative. Second future. Singular. I shall have had, thou shalt have had, he shall have had. Plural. We shall have had, ye shall have had, they shall have had. Potential. The potential form of speaking is expressed by may, can, in the present, and might, could, or should in the preterite, joined with the infinitive mood of the verb. Present. Singular. I may have, thou mayest have, he may have. Plural. We may have, ye may have, they may have. Preterite. Singular. I might have, thou mightst have, he might have. Plural. We might have, ye might have, they might have. Present. Singular. I can have, thou canst have, he can have. Plural. We can have, ye can have, they can have. Preterite. Singular. I could have, thou couldst have, he could have. Plural. We could have, ye could have, they could have. In like manner, should is united to the verb. There is likewise a double preterite. Singular. I should have had, thou shouldst have had, he should have had. Plural. We should have had, ye should have had, they should have had. In like manner, we use I might have had, I could have had, etc. Infinitive mood. Present. To have. Preterite. To have had. Participle present. Having. Participle preterite. Had. Verb active. To love. Indicative. Present. Singular. I love, thou lovest, he loveth, or loves. Plural. We love, ye love, they love. Preterite simple. Singular. I loved, thou lovedst, he loved. Plural. We loved, ye loved, they loved. Preterperfect compound. I have loved, etc. Preterpluperfect. I had loved, etc. Future. I shall love, etc. I will love, etc. Imperative. Singular. Love or love thou, let him love. Plural. Let us love, love or love ye, let them love. Conjunctive, present, singular, I love, thou love, he love. Plural, we love, ye love, they love. Preterite simple, as in the indicative. Preterite compound, I have loved, etc. Future, I shall love, etc. Second future, I shall have loved, etc. Potential. Present, I may or can love, etc. Preterite, I might, could, or should love, etc. Double preterite, I might, could, or should have loved, etc. Infinitive. Present, to love. Preterite, to have loved. Participle present, loving. Participle past, loved. The passive is formed by the addition of the participle preterite to the different tenses of the verb to be, which must therefore be here exhibited. Indicative. Present. Singular. I am, thou art, he is. Plural. We are or be, ye are or be, they are or be. The plural be is now little in use. Preterite. Singular. I was, thou wast, or wert, he was. Plural. We were, ye were, they were. Wert is properly of the conjunctive mood, and ought not to be used in the indicative. Preterite compound. I have been, etc. Preterpluperfect. I had been, etc. Future. I shall or will be, etc. Imperative. Singular. Be thou. Let him be. Plural. Let us be. Be ye. Let them be. Conjunctive. Present. Singular. I be, thou beest, he be. Plural. We be, ye be, they be. Preterite. Singular. I were, thou wert, he were. Plural. We were, ye were, they were. Preterite compound. I have been, etc. Future. I shall have been, etc. Potential. I may or can, would, could, or should be, could, would, or should have been, etc. Infinitive. Present. To be. Preterite. To have been. Participle present. Being. Participle preterite. Having been. Passive voice. Indicative mood. I am loved, etc. I was loved, etc. I have been loved, etc. Conjunctive mood. If I be loved, etc. If I were loved, etc. If I shall have been loved, etc. Potential mood. I may or can be loved, etc. I might, could, or should be loved, etc. I might, could, or should have been loved, etc. Infinitive. Present. To be loved. Preterite. To have been loved. Participle. Loved. There is another form of English verbs in which the infinitive mood is joined to the verb do in its various inflections, which are therefore to be learned in this place. To do. Indicative. Present. Singular. I do, thou dost, he doth. Plural. We do, ye do, they do. Preterite. Singular. I did, thou didst, he did. Plural. We did, ye did, they did. Preterite. Etc. I have done, etc. I had done, etc. Future, I shall or will do, etc. Imperative, singular, do thou, let him do, plural, let us do, do ye, let them do. Conjunctive, present, singular, I do, thou do, he do. Plural, we do, ye do, they do. The rest are as in the indicative. Infinite, to do, to have done, participle present, doing, participle preterite, done. Do is sometimes used superfluously, as I do love, I did love, simply for I love, or I loved. But this is considered as a vicious mode of speech. It is sometimes used emphatically, as I do love thee, and when I love thee not, chaos is come again. Shakespeare. It is frequently joined with a negative, as I like her, but I do not love her. I wished him success, but did not help him. This, by custom at least, appears more easy than the other form of expressing the same sense by a negative adverb after the verb, I like her, but love her not. The imperative prohibitory is seldom applied in the second person, at least in prose, without the word do, as stop him, but do not hurt him; praise beauty, but do not dote on it. Its chief use is in interrogative forms of speech, in which it is used through all the persons, as, do I live? Dost thou strike me? Do they rebel? Did I complain? Didst thou love her? Did she die? So likewise in negative interrogations. Do I not yet grieve? Did she not die? Do and did are thus used only for the present and simple preterite. There is another matter of conjugating neuter verbs, which, when it is used, may not improperly denominate them neuter passives, as they are inflected according to the passive form, by the help of the verb substantive, to be. They answer nearly to the reciprocal verbs in French, as, I am risen, surrexi, Latin; je me suis levé, French; I was walked out, exeram; je me toi promené. In like manner, we commonly express the present tense, as, I am going, eo; I am grieving, doleo; she is dying, illa moritur; the tempest is raging, fuit procella; I am pursuing an enemy, hostem insequor. So the other tenses, as we were walking, Greek, entinchenamon peripatuntis; I have been walking, I had been walking, I shall or will be walking. There is another manner of using the active participle, which gives it a passive signification, as, the grammar is now printing, grammatica jam nunc chartis imprimatur; the brass is forging, ara excuduntur. This is, in my opinion, a vicious expression, probably corrupted from a phrase more pure, but now somewhat obsolete. The book is a-printing; the brass is a-forging, being properly at, and printing and forging verbal nouns signifying action, according to the analogy of this language. The indicative and conjunctive moods are by modern writers frequently confounded, or rather the conjunctive is wholly neglected, when some convenience of versification does not invite its revival. It is used among the purer writers of former times after if, though, ere, before, till, or until, whether, except, unless, whatsoever, whomsoever, and words of wishing, as, doubtless thou art our father, though Abraham be ignorant of us, and Israel acknowledge us not. Of irregular verbs. The English verbs were divided by Ben Jonson into 4 conjugations, without any reason arising from the nature of the language, which is properly but one conjugation, such as has been exemplified, from which all deviations are to be considered as anomalies, which are indeed in our monosyllable Saxon verbs, and the verbs derived from them, very frequent. But almost all the verbs which have been adopted from other languages follow the regular form. Our verbs are observed by Dr. Wallace to be irregular only in the formation of the preterite and its participle. Indeed, in the scantiness of our conjugations, there is scarcely any other place for irregularity. The first irregularity is a slight deviation from the regular form, by rapid utterance or poetical contraction. The last syllable ed is often joined with the former by suppression of e, as lov''d for loved. After c, ch, sh, f, k, x, and after the consonants s, th, when more strongly pronounced, and sometimes after m, n, r, if preceded by a short vowel. T is used in pronunciation, but very seldom in writing rather than d, as plac''t, snatch''t, fish''t, wak'T, dwel'T, smel''T, for plac'd, snatch''d, fish''d, wak'D, dwel'D, smel''D, or placed, snatched, fished, waked, dwelled, smelled. Those words which terminate in l or ll or p make their preterite in t, even in solemn language, as crept, felt, dwelt. Sometimes after x, ed is changed into t, as vexed. This is not constant. A long vowel is often changed into a short one. Thus kept, slept, wept, crept, swept. From the verbs to keep, to sleep, to weep, to creep, to sweep. Where d or t go before, the additional letter d or t, in this contracted form, coalesce into one letter with the radical d or t. If t were the radical, they coalesce into t, but if d were the radical, then into d or t, as the one or the other letter may be more easily pronounced, as read, led, spread, shed, shred, bid, hid, chid, fed, bled, bred, sped, strid, slid, rid. From the verbs to read, to lead, to spread, to shed, to shred, to bid, to hide, to chide, to feed, to bleed, to breed, to speed, to stride, to slide, to ride. And thus cast, hurt, cost, burst, eat, beat, sweat, sit, quit, smit, writ, bit, hit, met, shot. From the verbs to cast, to hurt, to cost, to burst, to eat, to beat, to sweat, to sit, to quit, to smite, to write, to bite, to hit, to meet, to shoot. And in like manner, lent, sent, rent, girt. From the verbs to lend, to send, to rend, to gird. The participle preterite or passive is often formed in en instead of ed, as been, taken, given, slain, known. From the verbs to be, to take, to give, to slay, to know. Many words have two or more participles, as not only written, bitten, eaten, beaten, hidden, chidden, shotten, chosen, broken, but likewise writ, bit, eat, beat, hid, chid, shot, chose, broke, are promiscuously used in the participle, from the verbs to write, to bite, to eat, to beat, to hide, to chide, to shoot, to choose, to break, and many such like. In the same manner, sown, shewn, hewn, mown, loaden, laden, as well as sowed, showed, hewed, mowed, loaded, laded, from the verbs to sow, to show, to hew, to mow, to load, to lade. Concerning these double participles, it is difficult to give any rule, but he shall seldom err who remembers that when a verb has a participle distinct from its preterite, as write, wrote, written, that distinct participle is more proper and elegant, as the book is written, is better than the book is wrote. Wrote, however, may be used in poetry, at least if we allow any authority to poets, who, in the exultation of genius, think themselves perhaps entitled to trample on grammarians. There are other anomalies in the preterite. 1. Win, spin, begin, swim, strike, stick, sing, sting, fling, ring, ring, spring, swing, drink, sink, shrink, stink, come, run, find, bind, grind, wind, both in the preterite imperfect and participle passive, give, won, spun, begun, swum, struck, stuck, sung, stung, flung, rung, rung, sprung, swung, drunk, sunk, shrunk, stunk, come, run, found, bound, ground, wound. And most of them are also formed in the preterite by a, as began, sang, rang, sprang, drank, came, ran, and some others. But most of these are now obsolete. Some of the participle passive likewise take en, as stricken, strucken, drunken, bounden. 2. Fight, teach, reach, seek, beseech, catch, buy, bring, think, work, make, fought, taught, wrought, sought, besought, caught, bought, brought, thought, wrought. But a great many of these retain likewise the regular form, as teached, reached, beseeched, catched, worked. 3. Take, shake, forsake, wake, awake, stand, break, speak, bear, shear, swear, tear, wear, weave, cleave, strive, thrive, drive, shine, rise, arise, smite, write, bide, abide, ride, choose, choose, tread, get, beget, forget, seethe, make in both preterite and participle, took, shook, forsook, woke, awoke, stood, broke, spoke, bore, shore, swore, tore, wore, wove, clove, strove, throve, drove, shone, rose, arose, smote, wrote, bode, abode, rode, chose, trode, got, begot, forgot, sod. But we say likewise thrive, rise, smit, writ, abid, rid. In the preterite some are likewise formed by a, as break, spake, bear, share, swear, tear, wear, clave, gat, begat, forgat, and perhaps some others, but more rarely.
In the participle passive many of them are formed by en, as taken, shaken, forsaken, broken, spoken, born, shorn, sworn, torn, worn, woven, cloven, thriven, driven, risen, smitten, ridden, chosen, trodden, gotten, begotten, forgotten, sodden. And many do likewise retain the analogy in both, as waked, awaked, sheared, weaved, cleaved, abided, seethed. 4. Give, bid, sit, make in the preterite gave, bade, sate. In the participle passive given, bidden, sitten, but in both bid. 5. Draw, know, grow, throw, blow, crow like a cock, fly, slay, see, lie. Make their preterite drew, knew, grew, threw, blew, crew, flew, slew, saw, lay. Their participles passive by n, drawn, known, grown, thrown, blown, flown, slain, seen, lean, lain. Yet from flee is made fled, from go, went, from the old wend. The participle is gone. End of Part 2 of A Grammar of the English Language, by Samuel Johnson. Read by Bill Borst.